Thank you very, very much. I got the name Captain Crunch from the Captain Crunch whistle in a cereal box. This particular whistle sends out a 2600 hertz tone, which took control over the AT&T long lines of the United States telephone system, affectionately known as Ma Bell, then a monopoly, and calls during that time were very expensive. And it just so happened that I ran into some blind kids who found out that the Captain Crunch whistle could make this pitch that could then control the telephone lines. I just happened to have one with me right here. So here's how it would work. If you blew the whistle like this, you hear two tones. However, you had to hold the whole like this, and it goes like this. That's 2600 hertz tone. When you made a long distance call and blew this whistle into the phone, you would go, there'd go ka-chink, and then all of a sudden you'd get a little bit of white noise, and you are now having total control over the trunk line between two cities. To dial a number 2, I'd go 1, 3, and continuing like that, I could make a long distance call for free by calling a information number like 604-555-1212, and I would blow the whistle into the phone, and it would then connect to make the call go through. Later on, the telephone company changed their system to multi-frequencies. Multi-frequencies use 2 tones out of a possible 6 tones. Each tone had a different weight of value. The first tone, 700 hertz tone, had a frequency weight of 0. 900 hertz tone had a weight of 1. 1100 hertz tone would have a weight of 2. 1500 hertz tone would have a weight of 4. And 1700 hertz tone would have a weight of 7. So by combining the 2 tones, you can make a binary tone. For instance, 700, which is a weight of 0, and 900, which is a weight of 1, would be the digit 1. To dial the digit 3, you would have 900 hertz tone and 1100 hertz tone, which is 2 and 1. Add them together makes 3. And so these are how the tones were combined together to make the call. But before that, you also had to do one more thing. You had to send a special key pulse tone, and that's where the 1700 hertz tone comes in. When you send it 1700 hertz tone, that particular tone, along with 1100 hertz tone, would be called the key pulse tone. And that is the beginning of a call. So if you dial a number, you have to dial key pulse, the area code, and the number, and then a start tone, which is another 1700 plus 1500 hertz tone, and that would cause it opening and the number and close. And the reason why you had to sandwich the number between the key pulse and start is because of the mechanical switching system used by the phone company back in the day. Because they had 3-digit numbers, they had 4-digit numbers, they had 5-digit numbers, they had 6-digit numbers, 7-digit numbers, and 10-digit numbers. And you had to have a way of knowing the beginning and ending of the number, whether that number would be a 3-digit number or a 6-digit number. And that's how the blue box became sort of like my ability to take total control over the phone system. Early on, of course, I got in trouble for doing it because I got... basically what happened was Steve Wozniak, co-founder of Apple Computer, saw a magazine article. It's called The Secrets of Little Blue Box by the Esquire magazine article. It was sitting on Steve Jobs' desk in his living room. And Woz took that magazine article and he couldn't believe it. He thought it was just false until he went to the Stanford Library and he found out that, oh my God, those frequencies were real. And so he got the Bell System Technical Journal and built a blue box. But the problem with Steve was he is a digital person, and I'm an analog person. But when you send a digital tone down the phone line, you can cause all kinds of problems. And if you use his blue box would cause the phone company to catch on to the trick pretty quickly. One of my acquaintances bought Steve Wozniak's blue box and got busted for using it. And my phone number was in his address book. Against my advice, he did not memorize my phone number. And against my advice, he bought Steve Wozniak's box. And it was that box that got Richard in trouble and which eventually led to the FBI catching me. Going onward now, I'd say about maybe 4 or 5 years later, I was very interested in wanting to know all the 800 numbers in Washington, D.C. So I scanned and I found out that there are 10,800 numbers in Washington, D.C. I called every single one of them. And in my attempts to call these numbers, I found all kinds of very interesting things. I found computer access numbers. I got the number to the congressional Watts line number, so congressmen could make calls using their system. And I also got this very rude person that answered the phone. And this person was extremely, very hostile toward me. I said, "What number did I dial?" And he says, "Get off this line." Oh, okay. So it kind of raised a few red flags with me. So a couple hours later, I called him back and I said, "This is White Plains 4A Toll Switching Center. We have a translation problem on your number. What number have we reached?" And the person said, "You've reached the White House CIA crisis hotline number." This was in 1974. President Nixon was president at the time. And so I went ahead and I used the blue box to tap the line and waiting for a call to come in. And a call came in saying, "Olympus, please." And sure enough, Nixon's voice came on the line. And Olympus was his name, his code name. So a couple weeks later, I go to a phone freak party. One of my friends got that number. I gave it to him. I didn't care about it. And he decided to call that number. I said, "Before you do, you better loop through a number of switching centers before you actually make that call." He did. He got the president on the line, and he said, "Olympus, please." And the person said, "One moment, sir." Nixon came on the line and my friend said, "Sir, we have a problem. We have a shortage of toilet paper in Los Angeles." And this was the first recorded instance of being able to punk the president. And so this is kind of like the story. And I published it on my website for the very first time in 1997. And that's when I put my website online. At the time, I was on a system called the WELL. It stands for Whole Earth Electronic Link. So I was well.com/crunch. And that was my first website. And in my first website, I talked about the story. And since that time, my website has been expanding and expanding. Well, that's sort of like my old stories about what I'm about. And now let's talk a little bit about the present and the future, and then I'd like to open it up for questions. Let's talk a little bit about security and privacy. We all know what happened 2 years ago when Edward Snowden went to Hong Kong to meet with the reporter and talked about releasing all those NSA documents. One of the documents, of course, was the PRISM project, where the NSA was tapping and getting direct feeds from Facebook, Twitter, Apple, Microsoft, and all the other companies that were in bed with the NSA. And they had a hotline. The NSA could actually access those servers totally unfettered. And Glenn Greenwald, along with Porteous, was in Hong Kong where they released that information. This was depicted in a movie called The Citizen Four. If you haven't seen the movie, go watch it. It's fascinating. So as far as the NSA goes, if they want you, they've got you. They own your computer. They own your iPhone. They can activate your camera. They can activate your microphone. And they can activate your microphone also on your laptop, also on your desktop. They own it, and they have ways of getting into your system. And there is just no way that you can keep them out of your system. So the best and the most secure way that you can communicate is get a little thumb drive with Tails, Tails. This is a small, little, compact, little Linux operating system on a thumb drive. You boot from the thumb drive, and you're totally removed from all of the other aspects of the computer that you're actually hosting. Your keyboard monitors don't work anymore, and so that's the most secure way. And on Tails is where you would keep your PGP keys. PGP stands for Pretty Good Privacy. PGP's been around since the mid-90s, and now I want to go into some of the more up-to-date programs. The problem with PGP is it's very hard to use. Okay, you've got key management, you've got key rings, you've got to create and generate a key pair, your secret key you keep on you, and your public key you give out to your friends, so your friends can use the public key to send an encrypted message to you. And all in all, it's very difficult to use, even though most browsers today will have PGP plugins, so you can actually use PGP with your Gmail and all of your other types of email messages on there. Let's talk a little bit about smartphones. Okay, we've got the Android and we've got the iPhone. On the Android, you've got two important programs, actually three, which are really good, possibly even a fourth. The first program is called Red Phone. That program is recommended by Edward Snowden as the most secure communication voice system that you can get today. Along with that is a text application called Text Secure or Secure Text. I don't recall what it is. On the iPhone, you've got a program called Signal. Signal combines both the Red Phone and the Text Secure all in one package called Signal. Other application programs are Wicker, that's spelled without the, it's W-I-C-K-R, not W-I-C-K-E-R. It was written by Nico Sell. She's a woman, and she is a person who has no love for the NSA. She is a DEF CON attendee since day one. And she wrote this program, and she's got it on the Android, on the Apple, on the Macintosh, on the Windows, on Linux, and of course the iPhone. Other programs you have are, this one's written by Russians. It's called Telegram. Very good, secure program. Then you, of course, have got WhatsApp. Allegedly, WhatsApp was supposed to be secure. Not anymore. Not since Facebook got a hold of it. There goes your neighborhood. And, of course, you wouldn't trust Skype, and certainly wouldn't trust Facebook Messenger or any of these other application programs anymore. But that's kind of a rundown on the programs you can have and available for your iPhone today. I highly recommend you get into the habit of using these programs. They're just as easy to use as you're just using a phone call. It works great. I use it all the time, and anybody wants to get a hold of me on Wicker, my Wicker name is J.D. Crunchman. And so you can anonymously contact me. That way, anybody who contacts me is protected. And if there's anybody that's concerned about me, and because, you got to remember that the authorities are watching me big time. And so if you want to remain anonymous and still contact me on Wicker, you can. All I know, you can give me a Wicker name that's totally not related to you, and you can then communicate with me. And so that's pretty much a rundown of all of the applications that are on the smartphone. I think now what I'd like to do is open it up for questions. Does anybody have any questions?
Any question? Anyway, you are free to talk with Captain Crunch later on. He's not leaving us yet. So just, and it's the same for any of the speakers you saw today. Some had to leave, and for others, you can meet them just right outside. So I think this concludes our session of talks. Thank you very much, Captain Crunch.
And thank you for having me.